Welcome, everybody. As always, if you'd like to add your name to the agenda before we start, feel free to. If you have anything you'd like to discuss, please do add it to the agenda. I'll rattle off a few updates that we have around infrastructure releases and a new release for Cosign as well. I guess I can just kind of jump into things. So as you know, we've been working on a update to Recore v2 to have it backed by tiles. There's a lot more information in previous meetings. We are in the home stretch to having a 1.0 release of Recore v2 and a GA release of the effort, which includes the client updates. We have sort of an intermediate beta release that we've, or a beta milestone that we've reached, which includes updates to all of our clients to support Recore v2. Right now, we're focused on infrastructure updates. So we're doing a bunch of load testing. We've been updating the monitoring and logging. It will be Recore v2 v1.0. Right now, what our plan is going to be is we have a separate repo, Recore tiles. We're going to continue to use that where Recore v2 will be housed. We'll probably stop calling it Recore v2. At some point, we might move Recore tiles into the Recore code base and then call it a v2. We don't want to do that right now because we know there's a number of changes we still plan to make to Recore v1. One of the major ones is figuring out how to have Recore v1 backed by a tile-backed log. Not necessarily on the right path, but we'd like to be able to continue to maintain our read path, not necessarily indefinitely, but at least for a while. In case anyone's curious, we don't have any concrete plan yet for when we would turn down Recore v1. I mentioned this in an issue, but we would give the community at least a year heads up. It may be longer. I expect we'll have a long tail as we try to get everybody onto Recore v2 or Recore tiles. But depending on how the work goes for Recore v1 backed by Tessera, it might give us the ability to have it up and running for a bit longer. We just really want to start moving toward turning down our trillion instances to start simplifying things and getting us the reliability and the scale that Tessera gives us. So that's the plan as of now. If you want to give it a try, I do have a draft blog post which has some instructions. I'll link that here. I might not post this blog because I might just wait till we have our GA release. Whoops, well, I'll fix that in a minute. But yeah, take a look. If you want to try out Recore v2, Cosign is the simplest way to do so. We now have support. There's a flag that indirectly uses Recore v2 in our staging environment. But yeah, check out the blog post. It has instructions for more info. We also have a new release of Recore. Bob's been doing some performance improvements, trying to cut down on the number of calls Recore makes to the Trillion backend to try to help some of our scaling challenges with Recore v1. If you're running a private deployment, give it a go, see how it works. The other big thing is that we cut a new release of Cosign. So Zach's not on this call, but thank you to Zach for pushing a lot of this out. And thank you as well to Cody, who did a lot of the implementation initially of the second bullet point here. So there's a lot of features. There's even more than this, but I try to call out the three main ones. One, we now support signing an in toto statement rather than constructing one from a predicate. This should hopefully help the Salsa source track folks who are working on, they needed this feature. It should also help to make Cosign a bit more maintainable, that we don't need to add predicates every time somebody wants to go sign a new predicate. You just simply provide the statement and it'll sign it. Also on the verification path, we now take a digest and the digest algorithm rather than providing a file reference. This is again to help support Salsa source track, which is not using a standard SHA-256 digest. If you're not familiar with in toto, digests don't have to be one of SHA-256, 384, 512. You can provide any algorithm reference that you want there. So yeah, this is the first feature. The second one is completion of bundle support across all of our signing commands. So previously we would generate a bundle, and this is, I linked to this, this is referring to our new bundle format, this protobuf spec that all the other clients are producing and consuming. When you called sign blob or a test blob, it would generate one of these for signing in and testing containers and uploading to an OCI registry. We didn't have support yet. And so we ended up implementing two features at once. One is support for uploading a bundle that contains the signed container. And then the other one is that we are not, we're no longer uploading it as an annotation to an image, but as a referring artifact following the OCI image v1.1 specification. There was actually experimental support for a while, it still is in cosign. This is one of the many things that as part of a v3, we want to holistically go through cosign, figure out what we can clean up. There's definitely a little bit of duplication here. One really nice side effect of this is that there's a lot of other container tooling out there for dealing with OCI registries that hopefully should just work now. It doesn't mean that we won't continue to have logic for uploading, attaching, downloading stuff from registries, but it gives users an alternative. They can use tooling like Oros now. If you look through the PRs for this, this is the issue. Feel free to take a look at this. You'll see a lot of examples in the PRs. And we also gave an example here as well. Note that all these new features are gated behind this like new bundle format flag. We're planning a v3 release very, very soon. The only thing that the v3 release will do is flip new bundle format from false to true and use signing config from false to true by default. So it's meant to be a very easy change for anyone. They should hopefully be able to upgrade to v2.6, start experimenting, make sure they're happy with the bundle format, upgrade to v3. And if they're not happy with the new bundle format, they can still upgrade to v3 and just flip these default values back to false. So hopefully we can get everybody on the v3, v2.6 and v3 will have the exact same feature set, just a different default. So we wanted to have a major release to signal that we'll have this different default. After that, our plan is to deprecate a number of flag values that are now duplicative with some of the work that we've been doing around the trusted root format and the bundle flag. And then v4 would be when we would actually drop those flags. The last thing I wanted to mention is just that we now have, on this topic of ways of providing things, we now let you provide service URLs via signing config. Again, this is standardization across all the clients. Previously, you'd have to specify Fulcio URL, Recore URL, TSA URL. Now we have a standardized way of providing one of these. This is required in order to use Recore v2. Again, here's an example if you want to give this a go. And this will be the default going forward. One thing to mention is that with these flags, we actually now use Sigstore Go more heavily, including on the container signing path. So if you've mucked around in Cosign's codebase before, you'll know that there's a lot in the signing and verification path. And what's great is it will all be switched over to Sigstore Go, and we're going to be able to start cleaning things up in the Cosign codebase, which will make it a bit more of a CLI for signing and verification and a tool focus, and provide APIs focused on container signing exclusively. And if you want to do artifact signing, you can just use Sigstore Go directly. You shouldn't have to use Cosign. Yeah, that's the plan. Please do try this out. We really want to iron out any bugs before we cut a v3. So let us know if you have feedback. And the last thing I just wanted to point out, we filed a update to the TAC. Santiago this morning presented to the TAC. If you want to see what's been going on in the community, Recore v2, Cosign, everything that we've been highlighting here, we have been doing a bit of work around monitoring as well that was funded through the OpenSSF. Cool. And then Andrew, sorry, I missed your comments. Yeah, for the salsa source track, Adolfo Puerco has been working on this, and he had a feature request for Sigstore Go a little while ago that made more sense to implement in Cosign. So they should be able to just use Cosign now to support this. And I will also separately a conversation around like what should Cosign do, what should Salsa Verifier do. So I don't really have any answers to that, but we have to figure out something there. Andrew?
Yeah, so I mean, I know that Parker has been working on the salsa source POC, and so I assume that he wanted to be able to use the SHA one. I think it's a SHA one that has the Git commit ID. I was just curious why it makes sense for it to be in Cosign and not Sigstore Go, because that source POC it's not dealing with images. It's actually generating the notes, and eventually it might be. I mean, I know that he has plans to use GitHub's Sigstore as well, or their signature store as well, once they support using the SHA one as the digest.
Yeah, Puerco made a post about this. There's a bit of discussion. I'll link to this issue as well. I'm trying to remember exactly what the discussion was, but basically there's this trade-off here between being opinionated and restricting the set of features that Sigstore Go's support, but still exposing ways that users or clients can implement their own logic, which is sort of what we did in Cosign, versus creating Sigstore Go or having Sigstore Go be a lot less opinionated and provide a lot more customizability directly in the library, which is great, but does create opportunities for people to kind of shoot themselves in the foot. So this is the trade-off. I don't know if we have the right answer at this point. The way that you see Cosign implement some of this logic is sort of how we, I think, see if somebody wanted to build a custom client that they would do the same using Sigstore Go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was just asking because in our conversations before, we were saying use Sigstore Go unless you're using containers, unless you're generating attestations or signatures for containers. Otherwise, use Cosign. And it just seemed to be in opposition to that preference. But I mean, I understand too what you're saying. Like Puerco could have potentially used Sigstore Go directly. He just would have had to do more work on his own.
Yeah, I think so Cosign as a CLI should work for being able to verify salsa provenance. If you want to be able to verify salsa provenance programmatically, then I would say use Sigstore Go and re-implement some of the logic that's in Cosign. Don't try to use Cosign as an API. There's very little additional logic that's needed here. And this is, I wish Zach was here because he has some good opinions on this. We have in Sigstore Go a number of examples, and what we kind of wanted to show is that, in each of these examples, you'll see a little bit of duplication, but it means we don't have to think as hard about like what is the right API in order to do something. We can just let somebody go implement it themselves, and Sigstore Go exposes the right interfaces in order to let people go do that. So that's been the philosophy with how Sigstore Go's API has been designed, interfaces to provide customizability rather than implementing it within Sigstore Go itself. I don't know where we actually landed on this issue for what it's worth. It's probably worth a
But
bump.
I can just read that issue and try and understand it as well.
Yeah, and if you see any opportunities to improve, let me know. I'm also interested because I've been trying to figure out what to do about the salsa tooling that we have with Salsa Verifier, which is now lagging behind a number of clients in terms of what verification it supports. So again, I'm trying to think through, like, should we just say use something like Cosign or Sigstore Go and then do policy verification as a separate tool? There's also the Intoto verifier work that I've been like lightly following. There's overlap there as well. So we're having a bit of convergence of all of these tools, which I'm very excited about. And not to plug my own talk, but Marcel and I are going to give a talk at Open Source Security Con about tooling. This is kind of one of the things I want to talk about as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Aidan. Of
course. All righty, cool. Any other business? Anything else anyone wants to discuss? Alrighty, cool. Well, I hope everybody has a great couple weeks, and I'll see y'all around.
See you later.
Thanks very much. Bye.